Hey y'all, welcome to the Southern Appalachian Herbal Podcast. I'm Judson Carroll and I'm an herbalist. I'm also a wild crafter, a gardener, and herb grower. I'm coming to you from high atop the beautiful Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina, just a stone's throw from the Tennessee line, overlooking the Pisgah National Forest, absolutely surrounded by the bounty of God's green earth. I spent most of my life wandering these mountains and learning about plants from the old timers and all sorts of characters. On this show, we'll talk about herbs and how to use them, how to find them, how to grow them, how to make preparations. We'll talk about a lot of things. We can also talk about permaculture, homesteading, foraging, and living off the land. Most anything, really. You can email me at southernappalachianherbs@gmail.com if you have a question or a comment. You can also contact me through the Grow Network, where I'm a regular contributor and a moderator for the forums. And my blog is, of course, southernappalachianherbs@blogspot.com. All right, y'all. I'm going to sit my guitar down and let's talk about herbs.
Hey y'all, welcome to yet another edition of the Southern Appalachian Herbal Podcast. What better to talk about today than herbal soups? You know, it's a cold, damp February day, and what would be better than a nice hot bowl of soup, right? Well, I speculated a couple of weeks ago when I was talking about herbal teas that most likely soups predated teas. And if you kind of use a little common sense, our ancestors' main priority was survival. They weren't sitting around sipping teas. They were trying to figure out how to cook food. And it didn't take long for them to figure out the broth they had boiled some meat and vegetables in was good. And it made them feel better after they had it, especially on a cold day like today. I don't think anybody would deny that the best cold and flu remedy there is grandma's chicken soup, right? Well, unfortunately, modern day chicken soup just doesn't seem to pack that same punch, does it? Well, the reason is it comes from a can. Real soup does not come from a can. Real soup comes from a pot on the stove that you put meat and bones and vegetables and herbs in. You know, it can be as elaborate as one of those incredible Chinese medicinal herbal soups to, look, I mean, we have a tradition in the South called pot liquor. Maybe y'all haven't heard of it. My great grandparents swore by it. The broth left over from cooking greens, mustard greens, turnip greens, collard greens. That bitter, nutrient rich, just absolutely full of vitamins and minerals, a little fat from the seasoning that the vegetables were cooked in, salty and bitter, is really the main thing, would settle a stomach. If your stomach was upset, that was a wonderful bitter that people could take in the form of a broth. Just made you feel better. When we think of grandma's chicken soup, which is as rare as hen's teeth these days, as they used to say. You know, hens don't have teeth. That's what that means. Rare as hen's teeth means it's hard to find. A can of soup's just never gonna cut it. But why would it be so medicinal? Well, let's think about it. What goes into chicken soup traditionally? Well, obviously you're going to have chicken meat, so some protein. The bones would have been boiled in there. Minerals are going to come out of those bones. Collagen's going to come from the gristle, the cartilage as it breaks down in the water. And then, you're going to have some vegetables, some carrots, maybe some peas or beans. I'm thinking maybe green beans in this instance. That's going to give you a little fiber. It's going to give you some vitamins. Maybe there's going to be a little bit of a carbohydrate in there, a little bit of pasta, rice, or dry beans, storage beans. It's going to be healthy as a meal. And then now let's think about the herbs. Well, first of all, right off the bat, onions. Onions. Really, I mean, as far as the chicken soups I know of, and I mean, this is anything from chicken noodle soup to matzo ball and everything in between, onions are your main flavor. And onions are the absolute best thing you can have if you have a cold or a flu. I mean, the onion is anti-inflammatory, it's antiseptic, Antispasmodic, that'll help with a cough. Carminative, that settles the stomach. Diuretic means it pulls off the excess fluid. Expectorant, that brings up mucus from the lungs. Febrifuge, that means it helps with a fever. It helps with hypertension and blood sugar and blood pressure and helps settle a stomach. I mean, onions are so good for you, and how better to get some good onions than in a nice soup? What else? Okay, garlic. Hopefully, you come from a tradition that uses garlic. You know, honestly, the English side of my heritage was not big on garlic, but the French side of my heritage sure was. So, depending on whose soup you were going to be eating, you might get garlic, you might not. I think my grandmother, she would talk about when she first discovered garlic. She thought it was like onions, and she just kept adding more and more and more. She couldn't get the flavor of onions. She was just getting the scent. When my grandfather tasted it, and he's like, "What is this?" But if you come from a tradition where garlic belongs in your soup, take full advantage of it. I mean, garlic is stronger as an antiseptic than onion. It actually has antibiotic properties. It is also, antispasmodic, spasmodic, whatever, diuretic, expectorant, everything that the onion was, but much stronger. There's really nothing as good for preventing a cold or killing a cold, beating off a cold, whatever, curing a cold. That's the word I'm looking for. Than garlic. So, I mean, get the onions in there, get the garlic in there. Now, one of the most overlooked herbs, in my opinion, and one of my favorites, is parsley. Just common parsley. And I can't imagine a good chicken soup without parsley. I mean, parsley is also carminative, digestic, diuretic, all those things we were talking about. Febrifuge, it settles the stomach, it's good for the kidneys. It's also very high in vitamin C. It helps prevent against viruses. It helps, it's antiseptic. I mean, parsley is a wonderful herb and it enhances the flavor of everything. So, honestly, it's probably the most common culinary herb I use. But I mean, I put tons of parsley in my chicken soup. It's got like minerals in it. It's just, I mean, this when you think of what a good chicken soup is, it's the most potent multivitamin and multi-mineral supplement you're going to get, and probably the largest serving of medicinal herbs you're going to have. And I'm talking about herbs for the common people. I'm talking about home medicine. How better to get your family to take medicinal herbs than to make a delicious pot of soup? All right, celery. Celery belongs in chicken soup, in my opinion. I don't think you can have a good chicken soup without celery. You got the same qualities of being diuretic, settling stomach. It's also partially settles the nerves a little bit. Um, it has a calming effect on the central nervous system. It's just a wonderful herb to use. It also enhances flavor a lot like parsley does. It's celery. Thyme. Now, thyme is a great herb, and I think thyme and chicken just go phenomenally well together. Thyme is a decongestant. It will get all the mucus up out of your lungs. It calms a cough, and it's also antiviral. It's antioxidant. It's anti-inflammatory. Thyme is just a wonderful herb for fevers, colds, coughs, flus. Oregano. Oregano is a natural antibiotic. It's antiseptic. Again, we're talking antispasmodic, carminative, um, diaphoretic, expectorant. Oregano is one of the best herbs you can have if you're congested and fighting off a virus. I mean, bottom line, and it's wonderful in chicken soup. Rosemary. I mean, rosemary is one of the most storied and used herbs in history. I mean, rosemary is anti-inflammatory, antispasmodic, antiseptic, astringent, carminative, that means it settles your stomach. I can go on, and you're starting to get sort of a theme here. Now, when you think about it, we're combining all these herbs together into a simple soup that's the most powerful cold medicine known to man. All right, sage, another. I mean, sage goes really well with chicken. Um, I like to combine these herbs. Give it a try. Sage is just one of the oldest cold remedies around. It's great for a sore throat. It's antiseptic. Again, antispasmodic. astringent, carminative, everything you're looking for, especially if you're stopped up, if you're congested and you've got a sore throat. Wonderful herb would be bay leaf. Now, some people love bay, some people hate bay. I think bay is a great addition in chicken soup. And I'll talk about it a little bit more in a bit, but bay leaf is particularly good for bronchitis and influenza. Bronchitis and influenza. It's exactly what you're looking for if you're taking a soup to get over a cold. I don't know, maybe one more addition to the soup, and then I'm going to get into another tangent, I guess you cabbage. Now, cabbage I think is wonderful. It's one of those, some people love cabbage, some people hate cabbage. I absolutely love cabbage. I love it cooked anyway. I love it in sauerkraut. I'll talk about that a little bit more later. But you wouldn't think of cabbage as medicinal, would you? I mean, most people wouldn't. But cabbage actually has a long history of herbal use, especially for coughs and colds and liver issues and just cleansing the system. Cabbage is a wonderful ingredient. But now let me get to a little bit. I guess I need to clear something up. All right, so one of the things that probably annoys me most about baby boomers in particular is they tend to take something that's been part of tradition, handed down through families for, hundreds, thousands of years, and after rejecting all tradition and family and religion and everything in their youth, find it in when they're middle aged and come up like they've made a new discovery. Boy, they reinvented the wheel and called it something else. And they'll be all over PBS, tell you all about it. And send money. Always send money. Well, there's a lot of confusion around what people call bone broth. Now, bone broth is a misnomer to start with. Now, I got nothing against bone broth. Bone broth is great. Basically, bone broth is taking all those bones and slowly boiling them down with a little acid in the water to pull out all the collagen and minerals and everything. And then, you season it up and it's just great for you. But it's not broth. Technically, it's stock. All right. I mean, for hundreds, thousands of years, bones boiled have been stock. Meat or vegetables boiled have been broth. So, first of all, bone broth is stock. And this creates all kinds of confusion for people. I mean, they're looking in old recipe books and they're trying to come up with good ideas for soup. And they've been told, well, there's broth and there's soup, and most people don't even know what the difference is between broth and soup. And then there's stock. They may have heard of a stock pot. And then there's this thing called bone broth, and people are telling me use a slow cooker with that. And it just creates more confusion, and it's really, in my opinion, nothing but a marketing ploy. So first of all, let's just set the record straight. If you go back not long ago, just a few generations, everybody had a soup pot on the back of the stove. They weren't concerned if it was stock or broth or whatever. It was what the meat and bone and vegetable scraps went into, and it stayed on the back of the stove as the basis for a lot of meals. Now, if you were, a fancy French chef, or you were cooking for, a grand house, you were a chef in a major estate, you might have on your stove a stock pot for red meat. You may have specifically a stock pot for veal bones. You may have had one for chicken bones and other poultry. You may have had one specifically for fish bones and shrimp shells and such as that. And then you may have had another one for broth, boiled meats and vegetables, or maybe several. Yeah, no home cook's going to do that. No, you had a soup pot. And if you read the stories of our ancestors going back to well, not even the beginning of this country, I mean, I'm really talking pre-1960, pre-1940s and 50s with the canned soup press, everybody had a soup pot. Now, maybe some people didn't want to combine meat and fish. Okay, maybe some people don't like pork broth whatsoever. So I'm not saying everybody put everything in the soup pot, but until recently, If you came in from the field on a cold day and you went in, there was a nice hearty bowl of soup to warm you up. If you were traveling and you stopped at a tavern for the night, your meal was going to be this mix of all the scraps cooked into soup and probably a nice piece of sourdough bread. And you were thrilled. And why wouldn't you be thrilled? That is the most restorative meal a person can possibly have. I mean, it may not be an Epicurean delight where you can sit there and say, hmm, I taste a soupçon of rosemary in this, or these tomatoes were picked at the height of ripeness. No, it's going to be a mix, and a lot of the brighter flavors are going to dull out. And, maybe this is a little tomato or a few herbs were added to brighten it up at some point. It's what you had put in the soup pot. And every day you bring it to a simmer, and that kills the bacteria, and that's your preservative. I mean, that's your way of preservation, salt and bringing things to a boil. Sometimes you would not even add salt to your stock pot. You'd wait and add that to your finished soup. So let's think of this in terms of something anybody can do. Anybody. You can do this in your own home. You need one pot. You put, all right, say on Sunday you roast a chicken, and that, wonderful roast chicken you did with some vegetables, and you put some rosemary and thyme and some garlic and onions in there. Just the ends of the onions that you cut off, the onion peels can go in that pot. They don't have to be thrown away. Boiled up, cooked down, strained out, throw them on the compost heap. They're great. The ends of your carrots, your celery, always use your celery leaves. That's the best part of the celery, in my opinion. But the tops and bottoms of that celery, any vegetables that are getting some age on them. I mean, even some lettuce. Lettuce is a great addition to a soup. If it's getting a little too wilted for a salad, chop it up, throw it in the pot. If you want to do meat and vegetables separately, that's up to you. But if you want to even get some more flavor, take the bones after you've eaten everything off that chicken, or maybe it's a turkey at Thanksgiving, whatever. Take the bones and take all those vegetable scraps and roast them up nice and brown in the oven before you boil them. You're going to get incredible flavor out of that. And it's going to change the way when you're shopping for meat. You might think, well, I'll get a bone-in cut of beef. Yeah, I'm paying a little extra by weight for the bone, but actually it's probably a cheaper cut overall. And I've got this wonderful bone left over to make my stock with. Now, you can get as fancy with this as you like. I mean, you could have separate pots, or you could mix your chicken or turkey stock or broth. I'm going to start using these terms interchangeably. You know what? I'm going to wait and I'm going to say soup is when you take stock and broth and you combine it with vegetables and seasoning. Soup's going to be your final meal, the bowl you put on the table. So I'm going to use stock and broth kind of interchangeably here because on that soup pot on the back of the stove, people weren't keeping things separately, and there's really no need to unless you're actually putting together a fancy menu. Those stocks became the foundation for all those fancy French sauces, so it really did matter what was going into each of those sauces. But for home cooking, just like home medicine, we just don't have to be that particular. We're just interested in good food and good medicine, right? So, all right, so you can take you got your chicken stock or broth back there, and you're not ready to use it just yet. Maybe you're going to have some beef. Maybe you're going to have some fish. You can or maybe you're going out of town for a while, right? You can take that, cool it down, put it in a freezer container or freezer bag, a nice big one, gallon size, seal it off, get all the air out so it doesn't freezer burn, and freeze it. It can stay in there for weeks. All right, so the next day you've made, well, last night we had fried shrimp. All those shrimp shells make a wonderful shrimp stock. Literally, all you do is just put them in water and simmer them down, strain it out, and you got the foundation for any seafood stew or soup you want to use right there. Well, they're a little odoriferous, they smell kind of strong. And this one you don't want to put salt in. You're literally just boiling those shells down so you can add it to whatever you want. If I'm going to make a jambalaya, oh, I love jambalaya. And let's say I've got some pork and I've got some chicken, and maybe I don't have any seafood on hand. Well, I can use that shrimp broth to give me that nice flavor that I'm looking for in that jambalaya. So, all right, you can actually get some cheap ice cube trays from the dollar store and fill them up with that shrimp stock, freeze it, and then you have little individual portion, what, 2 tablespoons apiece of ice cubed stock that you can add to any meal to enrich it, to give it a flavor. Yeah, I mean, make gravy if you've got some frozen chicken or beef stock. Way, just get your flour and butter going in the pan and start adding in a cube at a time. Just melting it down till you've got all the wonderful brown, rich, wonderful gravy you could ever want. Right. So, like I said, this can be as convenient or as complicated as you want to make it. It can be as flavorful or as simple as you want to make it. Now, I'm not even addressing vegetarians and vegans because look, the human body is made to be an omnivore. We have teeth to eat both meat and vegetables. So I'm talking about the medicinal value of eating meat-based soups. If you think you can do it as a vegetarian, hey, more power to you. I tried it, I couldn't. I'm talking about actually taking bones and boiling them. Talking about taking meat and boiling them, vegetables and boiling them, and flavoring them with healthy, wonderful herbs. So we've been over how to make a wonderful chicken soup. Okay, let's consider this chicken stock we've got on the back burner as a base. You haven't put a bunch of salt and pepper in there. It's not overly seasoned one way or another. And you're not up for chicken soup that day. And you want something a little more spicy and warming. Well, why not give it an Asian flavor, an Asian twist? Again, there are so many of these Chinese herbal soups that are just incredible. And I'm not going to get into those. That's a whole other section. And honestly, if someone can recommend a great book on Chinese herbal soups, I'd love to have it because it's incredibly complex. And I'm talking simple today. So let's take a little of that chicken broth or chicken stock. We're going to add to that some green onion, scallion. A couple of them, maybe one per bowl, one per person. Chop that up, throw it in there. Let's add some more garlic. So we've got our garlic and onion. Ginger. All right, just take a nice ginger root, cut off little knobs of ginger, just a section about an inch long. And I don't even peel it. I just kind of give it a good scrub. Take the flat side of your knife. Put your ginger on a cutting board, put the flat side of the knife on it, and smack it. It crushes down, it just like the same way you crush garlic. Easiest way to deal with ginger. Just take that and throw it in the soup. Add in some black pepper, whole peppercorns or fresh ground or whatever, black pepper. Then maybe you want to add a little crushed red pepper or a slice of a serrano pepper or jalapeno or something like that. How about a little star anise? All right. I mean, we're talking some serious medicinal herbs here. I mean, ginger is, gosh, ginger settles the stomach. It's a vasodilator. It's warming. It's good to help for the fever. That's one that will help break that fever. It's good for diarrhea, inflammation. It's even good for snake bites. Okay, ginger's wonderful stuff. Star anise. That's common ingredient in any Asian flavored soup. Yeah, it's got a little bit of a licorice flavor. It's not terribly sweet, but it balances real well with the heat. It's great for the digestive system. It's an expectorant. Again, it's going to help you get the stuff out of your lungs. It's good for, bloating, all kinds of bronchial disorders, great for asthma, whooping cough. Uh, I mean, anything like that. And you just came up. I mean, you will smell this soup as soon as you put it together and you think, hey, that smells like wonton soup without a wonton in it. Well, if you're into making wontons, go to town. That's just, oh, and hey, why not add some good mushrooms to it while you're at it? How about some shiitake mushrooms? Yeah, sure, you can add button mushrooms, but how about some shiitake? They're immunostimulant. They're going to help you get over whatever's ailing you. Wonderful soup. You can make it in if you have the base of your broth, you make that soup in 5 minutes. Let it simmer for 15 minutes, have a bowl of soup. I mean, there's no reason anybody can't do this. Well, everybody's kind of stuck at home a lot these days thanks to COVID. Well, you could have this soup every day for lunch. Just keep it on the back burner. It's basically pre-made, right? Or if you're going to work, put it in a thermos and take it with you. How simple is that? In the summertime, think of all the additional herbs you could add to your diet by throwing a bunch of fresh herbs into a salad. I mean, your salad doesn't have to just be lettuce, whatever else you might add to a salad. You throw chives in there. You throw mint in there. You can throw in various flowers like borage or nasturtium. You could probably, between your soup and salad, that you could easily, your soup's made. You go out in the morning and cut a few fresh herbs from the garden or your little windowsill garden and, put everything together, maybe a nice hunk of sourdough bread. You could easily be eating 15 or 20 medicinal herbs every day. And think about how much healthier you're going to be and how much money you're going to save if it's an alternative to going out to eat. I mean, our ancestors were incredibly frugal people. There's a reason nothing went to waste, right? You can save money and you can be healthy if you just start having soup, soup and salad and homemade bread. If you're a big guy like me, have some meat left over from the night before. You could put in some sliced chicken. Hey, smoked fish. I absolutely love smoked fish and I love to fish. What's better than having a little smoked fish with your salad? All right, so what other options? I got a friend in Ukraine. She loves borscht. I mean, that is her thing. And what is it? It's again, it's a base of chicken stock and it's beets. Now, would you think of beets as being a medicinal herb? Well, they are. Beet juice used to be used for just about everything, or cooked beets. A lot of the old, a few hundred years ago, people didn't eat a lot of raw vegetables. It was usually cooked. And it goes wonderful with cabbage. But let me see real quick. Let me check my notes as far as beets. Well, beets are very good for the digestive system. They're anti-inflammatory. They got a bunch of good antioxidants. They've also been shown to maybe help with some cancers and liver issues. So when you have your beets, and let's say you put something a little fermented with that. See, now they always have theirs with sour cream. Sour cream is, this is naturally fermented sour cream in Ukraine. This is not our pasteurized store-bought stuff. Sour cream has all those good probiotics in it. Well, you can easily make your own sour cream. You can use a variety of things from creme fraiche. You can actually take buttermilk and make a thick sour cream with that. You can use milk kefir. But let's say you don't really have that. How about sauerkraut? Remember I was telling you how good cabbage is for you? All sauerkraut is cabbage and salt mixed together. Sure, you can throw some caraway seeds in there. You can throw some juniper berries in there if you want to make it super good for you. You can throw some shredded beets or carrots in there. But it's basically just cabbage and salt allowed to ferment. Its natural lactobacteria makes it sour. It will settle your stomach. It will help with digestion. It'll do wonderful things for your immune system. I keep a jar of homemade sauerkraut in the fridge all the time, and I swear by sauerkraut. So right there, you've got a wonderful soup. You add a little something fermented to it, and you've got again, you've compounded your antiviral immune supportive effects. I mean, there's so many things, and that's just chicken. All right, here's another one you can make with either chicken or beef. How about French onion soup? Now, this is traditionally made with beef broth, but you can absolutely use chicken broth. I've done it before. With this one, I mean, you want to talk the healing effects of onions and garlic. Okay, this is onion soup. This is not chicken soup with onions. I'm talking for one small pot of soup that's maybe going to make, let's say, 4 bowls. You're going to use about 3 pounds of onions. So chop the ends off the onions, peel them, slice them thin, just, put them in a bowl or a couple of cups, whatever. Get your pan going, put in some oil and butter. Olive oil and butter is always a good combination. Pile those onions in there. I mean, pile them in. And you let those things cook down until they caramelize. They become brown and soft. You're going to put in there also with those onions some garlic. Garlic can burn though, so let the onions cook down first. Then you got all these onions. You can do a whole clove of garlic if you want to. You could do shallots. You could do scallions. Anything onion that's going to cook down. Add to that some thyme is a wonderful addition. Parsley, cloves. Cloves go really well with onion. It's really surprising how good cloves are with onions. And cloves are antispasmodic. They're really good for settling the stomach. They're great for diarrhea, and they're really good for coughs as well. They also have that warming effect that'll help break a fever. So, and like yeah, I mean, I told you how great bay is. I mean, you throw a couple of bay leaves in there, and I mean, you've got such a great something that'll really help clear out the lungs. Something really good for asthma and colds and congestion. So that's it. You cook down all these onions, and then to your broth, you've added these herbs. Put those together. Bring them to a nice simmer. Taste your salt and pepper. When you serve this, throw in just a little bit of brandy, or well, you could use sherry. You could use just white wine if you had to, but marsala, something with a little natural sweetness to it and a little alcohol that helps bring out that flavor. Put in a bowl. Now, this is what's great. All right, you got this just bowl soup. Now, this is what's special. I mean, with all those onions, it's already special, right? But take a nice piece of sourdough bread, homemade bread, any bread you got. You don't have to be fancy. Cut it about the size of the top of that bowl. Fry it on each side in butter. You're making a nice big crouton, fried bread and butter. Float that on top of the soup, then grate Swiss cheese all over it, and stick it under the broiler and let the cheese brown and bubble. And I mean, this is like, I would honestly, if I was offered a good steak or a great bowl of French onion soup, I would choose the French onion soup because when it's made right, it is better than anything. I mean, anything you can imagine. But see, you could do this with anything. I mean, it could be chicken, it can be beef. You can easily make minestrone, right? You can make one of those great Italian wedding soups. These are all full of herbs that are healthy, that are good for you. My grandmother used to just do cubed beef and vegetables. And, I don't even know if she used any herbs other than that, but it was full of onions and it was great on a cold day, and nothing was better when you had a cold. It's just endless. I mean, it could be your matzo ball soup. It could be, all right, get creative with it. Nobody eats more soups, probably, than Asian folks. I mean, traditionally on a Chinese table, you didn't even have water or tea to drink. You didn't have any beverage with a meal. You just had a bowl of soup. I told you how to make one kind of Asian flavored soup. I also told you about maybe you want to add something fermented to it. How about miso? Miso is traditionally fermented soybeans. So I don't eat soybeans, especially commercially made. You can make miso out of any legume. You could even make it out of peanuts if you wanted to, anasazi beans, black beans, whatever. If you're interested in that, maybe I'll do a show on fermentation sometime. I love to make all my own ferments. You can easily, with one of these stock bases, add a little miso paste. Get a nice Asian flavored soup, spice it up real good. And that miso is, I mean, it's so good for your immune system, and it really is medicinal and a lot of good flavor. Um, okay, I'm going to go ahead and caution you against one legume. Whenever you're making your soup pot, especially if you're making a vegetable broth or you're just adding to just this big soup pot at the back, you can pretty much add any vegetable or legume bean to it, but I would stay away from field peas. They just have a way, this is like black-eyed peas, anything in the cowpea family. They kind of muddy the soup up. Once you put them in there, that's all you're going to taste, and it's going to come dark and thick, and it's just almost going to taste like dirt. So probably stay away from the cowpeas. But other than that, I mean, the sky is the limit. You know, Maybe you wanted to take that nice old shrimp broth or a fish broth. How about that? Or shrimp stock, fish broth, fish bones boiled down, or you wanted to stick with chicken. Do your own thing, whatever. And you wanted to make something that kind of had a sort of a Southeast Asian taste to it. I mean, you could put in some of the ginger and everything like we talked before, but you can add some coconut milk to it. You could you could add some more hot peppers to it. Add some curry powder. Turmeric is one of the strongest antiviral, anti-inflammatories there is. I mean, you could make a curry flavored soup. Shoot, you could use this broth and stock to make curry. I mean, if we can call chili a soup, why can't we call curry a soup? It's just a thick stew, really. The sky is the limit, but it starts with the soup pot. It starts with the stock pot or the pot of broth, or if you want to call it bone broth, I don't care. Just don't tell me about it. It starts with the simple, homemade, humble pot on the back of the stove to which we add all these medicinal herbs. And this, like I said, it's going to save you money. It's the biggest pot of multivitamins and multi-minerals you can find, and probably the very best way to get your family or to eating herbs or to incorporate herbs into your diet in a way that's just really pleasant. And you can get as fancy with it as you want to go. You can make all those incredible French sauces. You can make your veal stock and just go to town with it. Or it can be as humble as grandma's chicken soup. Either way, it's good and it's good for you. And on a cold, rainy, nasty day like this, there's nothing better. All right, y'all, have a great week. Stay healthy. Take some of my herb classes if you're so inclined. Let me hear from you if you have any questions or comments. SouthernAppalachianHerbs@gmail.com. And I look forward to seeing you again next week. Have a good one.
The information in this podcast is not intended to diagnose or treat any disease or condition. Nothing I say or write has been evaluated or approved by the FDA. I'm not a doctor. The U.S. government does not recognize the practice of herbal medicine, and there is no governing body regulating herbalists. Therefore, I'm really just a guy who studies herbs. I'm not offering any advice. I won't even claim that anything I write or say is accurate or true. I can tell you what herbs have been traditionally used for. I can tell you my own experience and if I believe an herb has helped me. I cannot nor would I tell you to do the same. If you use an herb anyone recommends, you are treating yourself. You take full responsibility for your health. Humans are individuals and no two are identical. What works for me may not work for you. You may have an allergy, a sensitivity, an underlying condition that no one else even shares and you don't even know about. Be careful with your health. By continuing to listen to my podcast or read my blog, you agree to be responsible for yourself, do your own research, make your own choices, and not to blame me for anything ever.